Welcome to this crash course in neurodiversity, specifically designed for teachers. You might think, neuro what? Don't worry, this crash course will take you step by step into the magical world of neurodiversity. Within 10 minutes, you will have a basic knowledge about neurodiversity, understand why it is important for you as a teacher, obtain some easy tools to improve inclusion in your classroom, and hopefully leaves you curious for more. First of all, you probably know that students come in many different shapes and sizes, not only physical, but also in their personalities. Maybe you can imagine that the same difference also goes for their brains. Let me introduce the term neurodiversity. This term has been coined in 1998 by Judy Singer, an autistic sociologist who wrote her honors thesis about neurodiversity. Neurodiversity refers to the term biodiversity and explains the biological differences among brains as a result of natural variation in brain development and cognitive functioning. These brain differences influence our perception and the way we interact with the world. It includes a whole spectrum, from neurotypical to neurodivergent. Neurotypical means that an individual has a brain whose mind and functioning fall within the societal standards of what is deemed normal or typical. Neurodivergent means that an individual has a brain whose mind diverges from the neurotypical standard. Their brain had an atypical development. This term is originally coined by Cassiana Asuzumasu, a biracial neurodivergent activist. So, what does a neurodivergent brain actually look like? Well, there is no such thing as the divergent brain. Neurodivergency embraces all brains that function atypically and is therefore often referred to as the neurodivergent umbrella. All brains that diverge from the neurotypical standard can be conceived as neurodivergent. A few examples of this are autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, and OCD. However, there are many more. There are a few important distinctions to make regarding neurodiversity. First of all, neurodiversity in itself is a biological fact. It is a biological fact because there is a variation in brain development and functioning. However, it is the way that this difference is perceived that is important. The neurodiversity paradigm is a specific perspective that recognizes neurodiversity as a natural form of brain variation instead of pathologizing these conditions as a disorder. The pathology paradigm is the current perspective in our society that looks through a medical lens at these brain variation and perceives this as disorders that should be cured. Let's dive deeper into the distinction between disorder and disability. Our society, including the university, is built along the social rules of the neurotypical brain, resulting in a neurotypical standard. A lot of neurodivergent students struggle to fit into this neurotypical standard, and this can lead to severe problems. Because of this, neurodivergency can be perceived as a disability in our current society, even though neurodivergency is perfectly normal. But what kind of difficulties do neurodivergent students exactly experience? One struggle that is often mentioned are sensory challenges. You can, for example, think of bright lights, overwhelming sounds and noises, or movements. These stimuli can lead to sensory overload, making it very difficult for these students to cope with the situation. Social difficulties are another struggle that neurodivergent students face. The unwritten social rules of neurotypicals can be hard to follow, thus making interaction with peers complex, and this can also lead to social anxiety. Another social struggle many neurodivergent students face are group projects, which demand a lot of social interaction and collaboration. Furthermore, Many neurodivergent individuals also experience executive functioning problems. Executive functioning are the mental skills underlying processes such as self-control, planning, working memory, and our thoughts. These processes are all required for studying, and thus can executive functioning deficits lead to study problems. A last common challenge are speech and language difficulties, which are both also very important for studying. And not only for studying, but also during social interactions. These are a few examples of the challenges that neurodivergent students face to live up to the neurotypical standards. Important to note is that there are many more and that each individual has their own personal struggle and difficulties. You might think now, great to know, but why is this relevant for me as a teacher? And that is a great question. Well, let me lay out a few facts to emphasize the importance of neurodiversity awareness. 15 to 20% of all people are thought to be neurodivergent, so also students. This means that in an average class of 30 students, already 5 to 6 students are neurodivergent. So, it is inevitable that also you will teach or at least come in contact with neurodivergent students. Your next question might be, okay, so neurodivergent students exist, fine, but why is it important to acknowledge their neurodivergency in class? Also a great question. Social participation in school is very important. In fact, it is essential for accurate academic and psychosocial outcomes of students. However, many studies show that neurodivergent students experience a lot of environmental barriers and difficulties to the social participation. One of the most important barriers is a lack of awareness and understanding among peers, and more important to you, teachers. So now you know why it is important for you as a teacher to acknowledge neurodivergency in class. Your next question might be, what can I do to accommodate neurodivergent students? Asking that question is already exactly the first thing that you can do. If a student comes up to you and tells you about their struggles or asks for adjustments, be open and ask about their personal preferences. What do they need? Regardless if you can provide it or not, be open and listen to them. Make them feel heard. This also touches upon the second point. As I mentioned before, one of the most important problems that neurodivergent students experience is a lack of understanding among peers and teachers. Therefore, it is important for you as a teacher to be open, understanding, and kind, even if you cannot provide the adjustments they need. A very important practical tool is to offer both online and on-site education. During our online corona years, many neurodivergent students have excelled. A lot of these students have indicated that they prefer online education. This may be due to reduced sensory input. Also, record your lectures. Due to executive functioning difficulties, neurodivergent students process new information slower and might need to rewatch the lecture. If on-site education is necessary, please allow stimuli-reducing tools, such as headphones or earplugs, or private working spaces. Lastly, be flexible in your teaching. Look critically at your methods. Are some aspects really necessary? For example, is group work really necessary, or can the assignment be adjusted so that a student can do the assignment alone? Another example, is it possible to give all students extra time to complete their exams instead of only allowing exceptions? Try to make your teaching methods as inclusive as possible. These suggestions are of course just a small part of the many more options that are available. For more information, you can check the following websites and books. Thank you so much for watching this video, and good luck on your neurodiversity journey.
Created using Powtoon.